listeners, this is your host, Abir Sikder. On this episode of Local Global Leaders, titled Fierce Advocate with a Nurturing Voice, I talked to Mindy Haas, the Executive Director of the Jewish Federation of the Bluegrass. Mindy talked about her work in so many different spaces, from her background in advocacy to doing martial arts. She's just a true fighter in so many different ways. I really appreciated hearing about her dedication to justice and how she empowers so many members of Kentucky's Jewish community and other marginalized voices here in Kentucky and in other places as well. Hope you enjoy listening. Greetings, listeners. This is Abir Sikder here today at the office of the Jewish Federation of the Bluegrass, interviewing Mindy Haas. Mindy, thank you so much for taking the time for this interview. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. Really appreciate you having me on today and to be able to share a little bit about our community and to share a little bit about what brings me to the Jewish Federation here in Lexington, Kentucky.
First, want to start off, this is a new thing I'm doing, so you're the first guest to get this fun question. Your 6-word story. How would you describe yourself in 6 words or less if you want to our listeners?
So this was interesting when you posed this question. I'm like, how do I see myself? In 6 words, with a period in between 2 of them, I consider myself a fierce advocate, a community builder, and some might say I have a nurturing voice. Not necessarily my children. They might say my voice can be, stop yelling at me when I'm talking just like this. But I like to say that I'm nurturing in my nature. So
I love that balance of nurturing on one end, fierce on the other. That's a really good kind of balance right there.
I like to find balance in my life.
That's good. Now, can you tell us more about your background beyond those 6 words? What do you want our listeners to know about you off the bat?
So I was born and raised in New York. I raised my family in South Florida. I had a really interesting life there. I spent over 32 years in South Florida. I was always involved in nonprofit. When my kids went to school, I was involved in the Parent-Teacher Association, and which is now my oldest is 37, so I've been involved with that for over 33 years. I started out as a local unit president and worked my way up to the state president of Florida PTA.
Oh, wow.
So I had a lot of experience with PTA. My husband once said to me, what are you going to do with all this volunteer work? How are you going to one day turn it into something? And at the time I thought it was kind of funny. And like, I don't know, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm going to continue to build my businesses and do really great things. So in turn, I was able to raise my family quite comfortably in Boca Raton, Florida. We were the people that served the community. I had a hospitality staffing company for over 20 years, and I worked with from every possible company you can work with, from South Florida all the way down into like the Key West area, all the way up into West Palm Beach. So I had over 100 plus servers that worked with us in the 90s. And we worked for Bill Clinton, we worked for Al Gore, we worked with Joe Lieberman, we worked with all of our big donors in the communities, in the Jewish community as well, as they hosted, some of the Democratic leadership. So I had great opportunities to learn how to use my advocacy skills as well as my entrepreneurial skills to make sure that people knew that we were the best party planners and staffers for their homes and for their facilities that they ran. The name of that company is the M&R Serving Company, and it was a women-owned business, so we got a lot of press on that. It was 3 Jewish women, and just had a really good time doing it. Late nights, we were young, so there was a big party scene around it in South Florida, and we took full advantage of getting to know people and having a great time. But my husband and I also owned a martial arts school.
Oh, wow.
And it started out in 2003, I believe it was 2003. It was originally called East Coast School of Self-Defense, and then Years later, we changed it to, we gave it our name flair, which was Hostile Martial Arts Academy. Goes well with having a lifestyle of going hostile. So we had a lot of fun with that. We had a school in Boca Raton, and we had hundreds and hundreds of kids and adults come through our program. And it's something that has stayed with us as we traveled, here to Kentucky. Well, we had a short stopover in North Carolina, and we had students there. And here we just teach martial arts privately, and we still have a really good time with that. And I am a black belt in a couple of different styles. So I feel good and confident in the way I lead. And whether building community or advocating for justice or just teaching confidence through martial arts, I bring my full self to my job. So I'm here to share as much as I can with the community.
That's awesome. I can see even more of where that fierce advocate side coming out with the martial arts. That's awesome. I think you've kind of addressed this a bit, but what motivates you to be a leader in your community?
So I think it's important just showing up. You show up with compassion, with clarity, and consistency. I'm driven by the idea that leadership makes space for others to rise as well. And I think that for me, it's not only about what I bring to the table, it's how do I encourage people to be the best that they can be as well and bring their best skill sets to the table. Because that's not always easy.
Yeah. That's awesome. It's important. I know one key theme I always think about with this podcast too, in questions is like you try to empower your team, right? Empower them.
Absolutely, especially my team here at the Jewish Federation of the Bluegrass. When I came here in 2020 during COVID, it was really hard because everybody was working from home, and it was kind of like the end of COVID where we were loosening up restrictions, and we were masking, but it was kind of like everybody was coming out of their homes, going back to the offices, and how do I create this culture of people that were already here, and I'm this new leader coming in supposedly with ideas and concepts, and how do I make it better, and how can we have a new vision coming out of COVID, and what does that look like, and then really getting the staff to buy into what I was bringing. So it wasn't just a cookie cutter kind of scenario. It was, okay, I'm coming in from North Carolina and I've got ideas, but it's more like, what are the skills that you all bring to the table? How can we realign the work that we're doing to make sure that we can meet our community needs as we're coming out of COVID together? So that was a big challenge. Everyone is still here, and we've added on to our staff since. So It's very exciting. We're definitely growing.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And that's great to hear about that inspiration for your being a leader. What in particular has inspired you to be a leader for Jewish voices and more broadly for like kind of human rights in that space?
So one of the Jewish values is justice, and how does it... It's important to create a safe space for the Jewish community to thrive. We want to make sure that we're an inclusive community, that everyone is welcome. You don't have to be Jewish to participate in the work and the fun and the activities that we do. Most people want to have a safe space in the Jewish community where it's just for the Jewish community, and I totally get that. But when we make ourselves known to the community at large, there's more of this comfort of, so all the marginalized communities here in Lexington can join together, and our voices get louder when we work together. So that for me is, how do you build this community? It's not just building a Jewish community, it's how do you bring our Jewish community out into the world so we can start showcasing the work that we do, so people that may not like us can get to know us, or people that know us can really get to know us and really understand what drives us and how we're rooted in our Jewish values. And, it's just caring for people, giving back, and of course, like we said, justice, and making sure that justice is not just served, but it is fair and equitable for all of our members of our community.
But no, I appreciate hearing that. It's awesome to see that you take that you said that Jewish value, that faith value of justice. It's not just for the Jewish community. It's for bringing together all marginalized voices.
Absolutely. When we look at when you work with the legislature here, they don't know a lot about the Jewish community. Yes, there are some Jewish legislators throughout the state, but they really don't understand what makes us tick, why we do what we do, why is it so important, why is education important for us, why is having Holocaust education so important, especially now, why is democracy important. So having the ability to have this platform to be able to talk about the importance of democracy, the importance of education for our children, the importance of Holocaust education, not to forget, to make sure that what's happening in today's climate, it may not be happening to Jewish people, it's happening to undocumented people right now. We want to make sure that people understand that those are things that happened back in the 30s, that what we're seeing by just taking people up off the streets, you just can't do that. Whether they're undocumented, illegal, any word that the government wants to use, we cannot be doing that. There has to be process, democracy, our society in the United States, we've created democracy. And we need to live by those rules, and we need to live by those standards if we truly want to keep democracy alive.
So it sounds like there's that, with your leadership, there's that higher calling for protecting our society at large and protecting our political institutions and our governing institutions, right?
Absolutely.
And is it tough here in Kentucky? I imagine, here in Lexington, as you mentioned, with members of state legislature or policymakers, there's probably, I'm guessing, more of a bigger Jewish community like here in the city, but with rural parts of Kentucky or around here, is it tough to amplify Jewish voices in the rural community? Is it harder there, if that makes sense?
I think it's harder because a lot of people have never grown up with Jewish people or don't even know that there are Jewish people in their communities. But here in Kentucky, there are Jewish people all over the state. Mm-hmm. They just don't come out and say, I'm Jewish. They just kind of hang out under the radar, celebrate their holidays. There's a lot more culturally Jewish people than religiously Jewish people here in Kentucky. But we do have a large number throughout the whole state, and the more that we engage within the state legislature to let them know what's important to us will help move our platform along.
Okay. And I think you've kind of touched upon this already, but how does the background in your work you mentioned the other nonprofits, with working in hospitality organization, with being an entrepreneur, direct services, the martial arts, and then, with the political leadership, how has all that background influenced your current role now and what you're doing?
So I think each chapter of that in my life has taught me let's just start from the beginning of that. Each chapter has taught me something. I learned advocacy and how to change systems. In PTA, I learned how to build coalitions, which has helped me in my current job today. Everything I do in my life, or everything I've done in my life, has brought me to where I am today. I take little bits and pieces of everything I've ever done, including martial arts, perseverance, just self-determination, all the things I've learned. How do you take all of this and just build one person? I'd like to say that I have been able to do that. It's just given me the ground that I feel confident walking on.
It sounds like it's given you, just such a holistic foundation. Working PTA, working with students and parents, being a badass martial arts teacher. It's given you a very well-rounded foundation for you to be a leader and you to just be a fierce advocate, a strong leader, right?
It's just confidence. It gives me the confidence to know that all the things I've acquired in my time on this planet, it has taught me when to say things, when not to say things. It's given me the ability to, let's just say someone said to me a long time ago, if you're going to work at a Jewish federation, it's not a job, it's a lifestyle. And it has stuck with me. And it was told to me a long time ago, and I never really understood it until you move into a community, you hold a leadership role, and everything, you can't separate it. And I didn't realize that that's the way it always was for me when I was raising my family. Being a martial arts leader, being a PTA leader, being a leader in my company, and being Marissa and Skylar's mom and Mr. Haas's wife, and it was my whole life. And I didn't realize that it was happening until that one time in 2018 that one executive from Federation said that if you're going to work in the Jewish Federation or in the Jewish community, it has to be a lifestyle. And it clicked that it was always happening that way. But it didn't resonate until I was a little bit older and realized that this is not a job. It's just my life now. It's nice to get a paycheck, yeah. But it just, people say, well, how do you turn it off when you get home? I don't. I just know when to pick up the phone, when to put down the phone, when to stop scrolling on social media and have real conversations with the people in my life.
And it sounds like you have like this role. It's got great personal value. It's like it's a lifestyle, but you're still able to have that separation of like, well, you're still thinking about it, I guess, but like still turn work off a bit, or is that a tough thing? I guess
I think it's always been a tough thing for me. I've always made it part of my life. When I was running my hospitality company, I was always taking phone calls from customers when we were driving on vacation. And of course my family was like, why can't you put it down? I'm like, if I put it down now, I'm going to have to deal with it later. So let's just deal with it now. Of course, when there's important things happening and life cycle events, I don't carry my phone. I'm embraced in the moment. But I do understand that in this role, I'm on most of the time, because if I go to dinner and I'm sitting down at Carson's with my husband and we're having a lovely anniversary dinner and there's 4 community members sitting at the table next to me, of course I'm going to say hello, and of course I'm going to ask them how they're doing and what are they up to and what brought them out tonight. So my family has adjusted to that type of mom, and it has served me well.
That's good. It's good to hear that really empowers you, and like the dedication you give. Like I can see that it's good that you have not just in the office here, but also you take it out into the community, and it's really great to hear about all the amazing things and successes you've had. I want to ask now, what are some of the biggest struggles you've encountered in your leadership journey, whether in your current role or in past roles?
I think the biggest struggle would be how people react to change, and how they deal with it, what the resistance is around it. Building trust in a community that has gone through trauma is difficult, and I think here in the Jewish community we have dealt with some trauma. So trying to make sure that resources are available to people. We have here Jewish Family and Community Services, which is part of our organization where we can assist people finding the correct resources for mental health, adult services for their children. So surrounding myself with some really great people and some really great resources helps diminish those challenges.
That's awesome. And I'm guessing, with what you said earlier about how you're here, of course, for the Jewish community, but to also serve other marginalized communities. It sounds like those are good community resources for everyone, right?
Yeah, absolutely. So, but one thing I did want to say, with each struggle, I get stronger, which allows me to lead differently. Mm-hmm. Leading the same way doesn't always work, because you cannot always control the environment around you. But I believe being a good leader is being able to adapt to those changes. So my biggest struggle is those that cannot adapt to the change. How can I really get that point across to them, that if they can just take that moment and realize that it's okay change. Change only makes us stronger. Um, but not everybody sees that, not necessarily the younger generation than myself.
Overcoming those struggles, like would you say, is that your leadership style, your philosophy, or what would you say your style or philosophy is when it comes to leadership?
So through PTA, I've learned about servant leadership and why it's so important. Building trust, empowering others, leading by example, whether it's leading a boardroom or just out in the community, building that trust and feeling confident that when you walk in a room, people know who you are and are confident enough to talk to you. Because I'll talk to anybody. It's just a matter of, do I go in with perception of they should come and talk to me first, or I'm just going to say hi to everyone, and I don't need to be the light in the room, but I certainly know that there is a light that comes with positivity and confidence. So I also know that there's a responsibility that comes with that. And I want to make sure that I'm doing the right thing for a community that deserves leadership, that cares about what they want. And I want members of this community, whether it's Jewish, non-Jewish, whatever that looks like, to know that they're being heard and they're seen.
And it sounds like you said, I like you mentioning that model, that style of servant leadership. Would you say that ties in particularly to the value of justice you mentioned and the Jewish values broadly?
I would think so. When I started hearing about servant leadership from a Jewish perspective, it came across very Christian-minded to me. So I had to adapt that to what does that really mean? What does servant leadership mean? And it may mean something different to other people around the country that serve in the same role that I do, whether, in PTA. And we're all very different religions and cultural backgrounds, etc. So I see servant leadership as being a servant to my community, and not so much faith-based, but just serving the needs of the community.
That's awesome. And with you having to adapting to all those roles, I guess how do you adapt your leadership roles among the different aspects of your job, from when it comes to managing the organization, when it comes to activism, when it comes to addressing discrimination, to providing the assistance you provide. There's I guess a lot of things you do. How do you just balance your leadership style with all those different roles?
So I would say that you have to lead with your heart. And if you can lead with your heart, strategy comes very easily. Okay. So if I'm tuned into what's actually going on, sometimes what's going on the surface of what you see, what you hear, what you read in the news is really not what's happening. Mm-hmm. So just having those one-on-one conversations with people and being present in the moment is really important. And of course, leading with purpose. Not just having a meeting to have a meeting, but to have a purpose for that meeting. And sometimes working here with my staff, I know how strong they are in their convictions. I know how strong they are in what they believe in and what they care about. So I'm sensitive to that. So sometimes as their leader, and I don't like to say I'm your boss because that's a weird kind of thing. As a leader of the organization, I want them to be able to think independently. So creating a strategy for the organization has been an interesting task for me, because it's not just staff that have to help develop strategy. It's a board of directors that creates strategy to help the staff be more productive in their day-to-day operations. So trying to put those two groups together and try to be the leader that both sides of the organization needs is not always easy, but knowing that we're going to come up with something that's going to help the community grow, thrive, and just continue to create experiences for not just the Jewish community, but the community at large.
I really appreciate all that. I especially appreciate you that's something I've been thinking about personally. Like what you hear in the news or what you hear out there is not the truth, or at least not the whole truth, but you try to make time for those one-on-ones to get to know, I mean, groups, but also individuals, and really kind of uncover what's like really happening, right?
Right. And I like to say that if I had an opportunity to have a conversation with someone that I didn't see eye to eye with, I would never be, I might be a little passive aggressive in a way, but I would never like say to them that their ideas are wrong or not be open minded to what they have to say. But truth matters. And if I'm not being truthful, I would hope that someone would call me out on it. And I would want to, and my husband calls me out on it. And I'm okay with that. I might get mad at him at first, but I do appreciate that he calls me out on it. Because I do come home sometimes a little stressed out and I start, ranting a little bit about things. And he's like, well, that's not really how you feel, is it? And I'm like, it is. And he's like, think about it for a minute. I'm like, okay, you're right. It's not really how I feel, but I feel like I internalize everybody else's pain sometimes, so it builds on my own pain. And then how do you weed through that and really see the truth? So I try to look at it I try to have an introspective view, and then looking at the person I'm sitting down at the table with and saying, are they really telling me the truth? Or is this really just they have to tell a certain story because that's part of their job? So there's so many different things that you have to think about when assessing what people are really saying to you. And I spend a lot of time in that space, and I probably shouldn't. And just let it be. But I care too much.
I think that's a tough role to have to take on, but someone has to do it, right?
Somebody has to do it.
And I appreciate you sharing, from managing different aspects of your job to the struggles. I was curious too if you wanted to share, like, are there examples of toxic leadership you've had experience with that have that you used to reflect on, or that you've learned from, or any of those experiences?
Not really. I don't usually spend a lot of time in that space. If something feels really toxic, I'm out. I think social media is hard right now because the space is very toxic, but I don't want to disengage because I do want to know what's going on, but I also feel that if you could let it go and not make it toxic, it's easier to deal with. Toxic people are out there. I just choose to have minimal conversation and just move on. I just keep it simple.
I like that. It's good. Yeah, it's good to just get out of there when you see.
Get out of there as quick as possible.
That's good. Now I have what I call my 3 M's of leadership. What I call motivator, manager, mentor. So being an effective motivator, being a competent manager, and being a supportive mentor. How do you balance these roles as a leader? Do you see them as 3 very distinct, separate things, or are they all kind of tied together, or how do you view those my 3 M's?
I would say they probably go very well together for me. I've been a mentor to a lot of people. Some have expressed it to me. Some have come back later on in the years to say, I've watched everything you were doing. I've taken your leadership style. I've run with it. It's been successful. That didn't work. This worked. But I'd like to say that my biggest success is my daughters and how they, have come out to be incredible women. And I'm in awe of them every day, every single minute of every day.
That's awesome. And I'm sure they're also in awe of you, of your great experience in leadership.
I believe so. They tell me that. They share it. They are. You don't say your kids are mini me's, or like my husband and I like to say that our daughters are the best of us and the worst of us.
That's fun. But yeah, I appreciate you taking the time for all those questions about your leadership journey and about leadership development. Now I want to ask a few of my what I call my local global questions, and then also some fun questions.
Sure.
So, what advice do you have for people who hope to become leaders? I was going to originally ask particularly in the nonprofit sector, but also like in the public or the private sector, given your diverse experience. Like, what advice do you have for people who want to be leaders?
That's an easy one. Stay grounded in your why. Learn everything you can, and never forget the relationships that you have built up until this point. You know, they say be careful as you're climbing up that ladder not to step on anybody as you're on your way up, because you're never going to know what you need as you're falling back down. I hope never to fall back down, but I do know that those that helped elevate me in my career, whether it's professionally or personally, they have all been there to help, move me to where I am today. And that's family members, friends, people that I look that were mentors to me. I think it's just really important that know where you come from and stay true to that.
That makes sense. How do you internalize kind of global identity, or rather like global citizenship, in your work? And how does what's happening around the world affect you as a leader to the Jewish community here, but also to the Jewish community in the world? Like, how do you internalize all that?
So I think that global citizenship starts locally. When I advocate for Jewish safety or support of a refugee family, I'm tying Lexington into the bigger human story to make sure that we're doing the right thing here in our community so we can be an example for other communities to follow suit.
That's awesome. And I like that. It kind of fits in with the theme of the podcast, starting local, and that's how you get global. And how do you try to be a global leader for Kentucky in your role and with everything you do?
Just being a vibrant, inclusive, helping become a vibrant, inclusive Jewish community. When we do that here, we can thrive anywhere. Again, just being an example, coming up with programs that can be replicated in other places, not just in Kentucky, but in other cities similar in size. But just being a leader, not being afraid to share the things that you find are successful in our community here, and then just helping others replicate it in theirs.
Yeah, and it sounds like a lot of the work you're doing. I mean, it can be replicated, of course, with other Jewish communities in other cities or other places, but also in other faith communities or in other ethnic communities can
Absolutely.
replicate this too.
Absolutely. Especially for me, when I started in PTA, it was really important that things that we did in the county that I lived in, that we were able to replicate into other counties across the state of Florida.
Oh, wow, okay.
So we did programs like PTA Day in the Park, where one day throughout the whole state, local PTAs had family day or just a PTA Day in the Park. So we would do it. Was usually the Thursday before the Sunday or Saturday before Thanksgiving, and it's usually where there was no baseball games, no other community activities, because people were starting to get ready for vacations, and we just had everybody have a day in the park, and it was happening all throughout the whole state. And here in Kentucky, we do things like Advocacy Day for the Jewish community, where we all get together and we meet with our legislators, and we've put together some Advocacy 101 programs that we've shared throughout the country, and it's on some Jewish Democracy Now! Website. So, just being a leader in your community, sharing the stories or sharing the programs and things that you do here will help engage those that are looking for opportunities and ideas.
Okay. And I think you kind of touched upon this already, but what advice do you have for leaders, whether individuals themselves or movements or organizations, who want to put Kentucky on the global map and show everybody what are the great things that our Commonwealth offers?
Tell your story boldly. That's super important. Always collaborate across the sectors of the community, collaborate with the governor, the mayor, the city council members, making sure that people are not afraid to lead from where they are. You don't have to look for someplace else to be a leader. Be a leader where you are. If you are a mom that is picking up your kid on the line at the end of the day at school, be a leader. Do something with that time. Whether it's get out of your car, talk to people, or you're in a coffee shop or let's just say you're at McDonald's and your kids are playing in the, I don't know, they have those playgrounds inside anymore,
Oh, yeah.
those
With
COVID-infested
Oh, yeah.
playgrounds.
With the ball pits.
The ball pits.
I loved those growing up.
Talk
Yeah.
to people. Talk to the people. Talk to the manager at McDonald's.
Okay.
And, just introduce yourself. That's all it is. Being a leader is just introducing yourself, letting people get to know who you are, and, deciding if that's the right person you want to share more information with.
That's cool. I really like that, getting to know your local community. The McDonald's story actually reminds me, my first full-time job out of college was in Teach for America. And,
I know that. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. And a piece of advice I got that they gave to all of us was, hey, like, wherever your school is, find a local McDonald's, just go and eat there. Go and eat there, talk to people, get to know them. That will give you a good insight to what it's like in the neighborhood of the school you grew up in. So I appreciate that.
Absolutely. Well, that's a very PTA conversation. So that's what you do.
Yeah.
So we spend a lot of time here at Kenwick table, and
Okay.
I talk to everybody. Anybody that'll talk to us. But going to the gym, I talk to all the people at the gym. I let people know, who I am and what I do. And the more connections I make for the Jewish community here gives us a safer feeling that, people care about each other. And Lexington is an amazing community, really amazing.
I think we're a great city for that, for those local connections, but also to move things beyond for the whole state as well.
Absolutely.
How do you engage? You talked about so many diverse voices you have in your diverse community. How do you engage or deal with like conflicting voices in your work or in your community? Like one example that comes to mind are just, of course, liberal wings versus like conservative wings of Judaism. But that's just one example. But how do you engage and work with those just diverse but sometimes conflicting voices?
So again, I think it's just make the space for the dialogue. Again, we don't have to agree on everything, but we have to agree to listen and lead with respect. Mm-hmm. And I think that is probably, for me, it's easy, but it's how I internalize it, and may not always be the easiest thing for me. But listening, caring, showing that we're just human beings on a planet. Whatever, God gave us color of our skin. He gave us freedom. He gave us free will. He gave us, I say he. Some of my friends that might hear this, I'm sorry. It could be a she, but let's just go with the he for now. So, again, we're all like, I don't want to say victims of society, but we're all just products of the society that we're engaged in, and it's how you choose to decipher the information, how you choose to take some of it, internalize it, and know that, again, if there's toxicity to it, let it go. It's not worth it.
That ties in well to what you said earlier about just avoiding those toxic conversations. Get out of there, and you don't need any of that, right?
Yeah, life is not always easy, but it's up to us to determine how easy we want to make it.
I like that. What are leadership lessons you've learned from books? Are there any particular books or readings you want to share with our audience that have inspired you?
I wish I could say I was an avid reader. As you can see, I have a lot of books. Yeah. But I don't really have a lot of time to sit down and read. I am a TV person. I love a good book on TV. I love to be engaged with television that feels good. Like, I like to say that Ted Lasso is just spot on for me, my life, the kindness. I was an athlete in college, so I get the whole, team believe. I have a tattoo that says believe. So for me, that was super, super important. When I started watching Ted Lasso, there was moments of like, I had a coach that once said that to me. Oh, I have said that to kids, on the martial arts floor. So it definitely, it didn't teach me the power of kindness, but it certainly made it very real to me that you can be a hard ass and still be a kind person. West Wing. was another one. So
favorite
we're
show.
vibing
That's
here.
my favorite show. Go on.
It definitely taught me grit and empathy.
Yes.
I am a junkie for all presidential everything.
Yes.
Meeting Bill Clinton back in the 90s was huge for me. I was already a huge fan of The West Wing. My husband and I, we still talk about it.
Mm-hmm.
He's rewatched it numerous times. I don't have time to rewatch it numerous times, but I can just turn it on at any point and know where we are in the story. And Martin Sheen, he'll always be my president.
Yep.
Him and Bill Pullman.
Oh, yeah.
And of course, any story that talks about women's empowerment and leading with strength and, of course, heart.
That's awesome. I love. Yeah, I'm just like your husband. I can pick up on any episode of The West Wing and know where we. I think I've rewatched it too many times in the double digits. But I love. Oh man, I love that. And Ted Lasso. I mean, that got me through COVID a lot. Just watching that. And
Absolutely.
being inspired by that.
And I hear it's coming back for one more season. I'm excited.
Yes, yeah. I'm excited for that too. Oh, I'm just so excited to hear fellow Ted Lasso and West Wing fans.
Yes.
Just greatest shows, great role models, great heroes. And who are your main your main leadership role models, whether real or fictional? You named, of course, Jed Bartlett and Ted Lasso. Anyone else you want to share?
I would definitely say Ruth Bader Ginsburg. Her tenacity. She paved the way for equity work. She was quiet, but fierce. And I think that we may never see that again on the Supreme Court. We've got some wonderful Supreme Court leaders right now, but I'm not sure if we'd be where we are today without if she was still here. She definitely gave me I don't want to say strength, but gave me the help move the drive along. Like she was like 4'11". My grandmother was smaller than that. My daughter's 4'11". It's just the power behind her voice. Her, as quiet as she was when she spoke, she knew what she was talking about. She was able to stand up to any man, and I feel very confident in a man's world. And I know that one day somebody might say on a podcast, who was it that helped move you in this direction? And hopefully one day that person will say my name.
Oh, I'm sure they will if they haven't already.
Thank you.
But yeah. And are there any other local or global leaders you look up to you want to share?
I probably have a lot of them, but I probably have many of them. But Ruth Bader Ginsburg is just one that really sticks in my mind. And, of course, I want to say my grandmother and, knowing what my grandparents went through to come to America and to be part of this society, and didn't always have it easy, but made sure that they made sure that my parents had everything that they needed to be able to survive in society. And my parents made sure that me and my siblings had what we needed to be the people that we are today. And it's important that we move that for our children. And now my children have children, and we want to make sure that they do everything they can to give their children this success. So I guess it really starts with my grandparents.
That's awesome. That's so great to hear about them. To hear about RBG, I think the example you shared there ties in well to your 6-word story of being fierce but also being nurturing. So that with your family, it's I really appreciate hearing that.
Well, I will tell you what brought me here I was obviously brought here by the Jewish community, but when we came here to visit in, I think it was beginning of September 2020, we came here. City was in lockdown. And my husband and I were wearing our masks outside, walking around the community. There was very few people out on the streets. And the Jockey Club was open, the outside bar. And I had just happened to have my Ruth Bader Ginsburg shirt on. And we were sitting at the bar, and I was leaning towards the street, and somebody walks by and goes, "Love your shirt." I'm like, "Thank you, that's really great." We got up, paid our bill, walked down the street, and some other people went, "Whoa, that is such a great shirt." Like, okay, well, we're in Kentucky. Okay, this is great. My husband's like, "We're moving here. Take the job. Take the job. This is a great city." And she is the impetus of why we're here.
Oh man, that legacy still lives on.
Mm-hmm.
That's great. But Executive Director Haas, thank you so much for taking the time for this. It's been so great and inspirational to hear your story, to hear about just your magnificent experiences, like, I mean, not just here in Kentucky, but in Florida, of being doing martial arts, doing PTA. Just really appreciate your strength and your bravery, and not just what you're doing for the Jewish community as well, but just for all marginalized communities. You're
Thank
a great
you.
leader.
And I appreciate the opportunity to share.
That concludes my episode with Mindy Haas. I love talking about her dedication to community organizing and empowerment, and how she approaches feminism and interfaith communities and universalism. And it was so fun that for my second episode in a row, found a fellow fan, The West Wing, and got to talk about that for a bit. But it was just amazing to know what a strong leader she is, from being a martial arts instructor to starting organizations, and just how her background in so many diverse areas of direct services and hospitality, her nonprofit work, working with PTA in so many different states, and how all those experiences brought her here to everyone's favorite Commonwealth. My next episode will come out in September, and it will feature Robert Blythe, the mayor of Richmond, Kentucky. Remember to live local and think global, fellow changemakers.